Hello, everybody. Can you hear me properly? Let me know if you can, and drop me a comment in the chat if you're here. Thank you so much for coming. This is really exciting. I've never done one of these before by myself. So I'm really excited to write with you and to answer any writing questions. I was thinking we could treat this more as like a kind of mini writing workshop together, where if you had any questions about like your plot or story or, anything, you could talk about it in the chat and then everybody else can answer each other's questions and I can give you my 2 cents and we can kind of help each other out. So what are you working on? Let me know in the comments. I was thinking we could do 20-minute sprints. I am currently working on editing a project that I have. I told my editor that I would finish this short story for him this weekend, and it is not done. So I need to finish that, and I am going to probably work on that during these 20-minute sprints. If I were writing, I usually like to work in 15-minute sprints because I find myself losing focus after that. Does that work for you? If not, we can always adjust. Also, if I have any connection issues throughout this broadcast, please let me know because I am currently staying with my parents and the Wi-Fi here is not incredibly reliable because they live out in the middle of Montana and it's pretty out in the middle of nowhere. I was doing an interview the other day and the Wi-Fi cut out for an hour and a half unexpectedly in the middle of the interview, cutting the interviewee off mid-sentence, and it was really, really horrible. So if that happens, please know that I did not just hang up on you all because I felt like it. It was actual Wi-Fi issues. I also am probably going to experience some technical difficulties because I've never actually done this software before. I've only been on my wonderful friend's streams before. So this is going to be interesting. And yeah, um, cool. Well, hi, Michael. It's so good to see you. Hi, Tiara. If I mispronounce any of your names, please let me know. Oh, good. I'm so glad you can hear me and see me and everything's good. Hi, Nicole. I'm so glad you can make it. Oh, cool. Awesome. Awesome. You can let everybody know what we're working on. Oh, hi, Autumn. I'm so happy you're here. Thank you for dropping in. I am going to. Oh, hi, Marissa. Oh, I have all my friends here. This is so fun. All right, so I'm going to see if I can. So I found this timer yesterday, and I was practicing, and on this platform, and it was allowing me to play this MP3 video of this timer, but it's not letting me do that today. So I think I'm gonna have to find a timer on YouTube. As I said, we're probably gonna have some technical difficulties to play while we're doing these sprints. So I'm looking up a timer for 20 minutes. In the meantime, let me know what you're gonna be writing while we're doing these sprints. I'm also probably gonna keep this pretty short to maybe like we can do 2 or 3 sprints because I'm still pretty new to this and I feel like we can probably keep it casual today. Um, let's see. All right. How about we use this timer and I can share my screen. Hi, yes, we have lots of mutual friends in the chat. Oh, cool. That's awesome, Nicole. Plotting is really awesome. I always spend so much time plotting before I even start writing. I usually like when I'm writing a book, I'll spend like 2 weeks just focusing on my outline. So yeah, plotting is super important. Hi, okay, cool. So I'm gonna share my screen and we can start this first sprint. Let's see if this works. Maybe this works. This is going to be interesting looking. Cool. So I'm gonna minimize this to get rid of all of the kind of extra stuff. I promise I'm gonna get better at this as I do this more. This is a first attempt at writing sprints on YouTube. So cool. All right, I'm gonna start the timer. At 20 minutes, I'll come on and either play a noise or make a noise. We'll see how if there's not a noise that comes in on this particular timer. And let's start sprinting. Happy writing, everybody. Oh, wow, that is an aggressive sound. All right, I'm gonna get rid of that timer. Um, awesome. How did everybody do? That was a fun sprint for me. I really hate sprinting while editing because it's so impossible to gauge my progress at all. Like, I don't know if you feel that also, because like you can edit for 20 minutes and write like three sentences and it's still a productive editing session because those three sentences needed to change, but there's no like speed of editing or way you can measure your speed of editing. I don't know. Maybe that's just a me thing, but I really, really very much dislike it. Oh, we got some new friends that joined us. Oh, Michael said he was going to be reading for the sprint. I hope your reading went well. Hi, Devin. I'm so glad you could join us. Hi, BF. Hey from Montana. um, oh, cool. So you have a plot question. Writing a nonfiction war book with fictional characters to observe. I want to open with a battle to establish the central conflict. Start with a battle from this war or from a previous war. Thanks. Okay, so here's the thing about battles that I've often heard when writing fiction. I don't necessarily know about nonfiction war books because I think you're going to appeal to a slightly different audience than just like people who love reading fiction. But battles and opening with battles is typically a little bit difficult because it's hard for people to become invested in battles before they are invested in the characters fighting in the battles. Like, if before they know what the battle is about or before they really care whether a character dies, if you show a lot of action, it's just probably going to seem like a lot of action to the people that are reading the book. And so I wonder if maybe you could start with some way to establish the general conflict or establish a way to like get people to connect to your characters more before you throw them into battle, because that's probably going to make it a little bit more emotionally resonant and make people want to find out the stakes of the battle sooner. You can probably start with the battle early on in the book, but maybe if you can find a point of entry that is a little bit more character based. But again, take all of this with a grain of salt because I don't necessarily know the market that you are writing for. And if you read a lot of nonfiction war books, and people loved the technical battle stuff right off the bat without the emotional connection to the characters, you definitely should start with a battle. I think if you are writing an entire book about one specific war, you probably don't want to start with that specific war and work backwards because that is the main exciting thing that everybody is picking up the book to read about. So maybe you want to give some more context about the war and build up to the war by the end of your book. And then you can start with a battle from a previous war to kind of get people into it and give them a little bit of that like technical battle stuff that they picked up the book to read about in the first place. But that's just my opinion. I don't really read in your genre, so that might be completely not helpful at all. Hi, I please correct me if I pronounce this wrong. Is it Miki? Hello, I am so happy that you're here. Oh, cool, another plot question. Okay, so with having written a new character, everything of the story kind of makes no sense anymore. What do you do when you realize that your plot is suddenly not making sense and having plot holes? This happens to me all the time. I absolutely know how you feel. What I do when this happens, because this is the worst feeling, especially when you put a lot of time into a story and all of a sudden you realize that you missed something and now the rest of your book doesn't make sense. And like for me, this happened when I was writing the sequel to They Stay. I was finishing the first draft and I got to the climax of the book and I had this idea and I realized that like I had missed a really, really big plot opportunity to up the stakes of the climax. And that required me going back and doing a ton of groundwork before finishing writing that draft. So it's a terrible feeling and I totally sympathize with you. What I typically do when this happens is that I just have to go back to the drawing board. Like I have to take a step back and I have to go back and I redo my outline and I do some like critical thinking about where my plot is going and try to reason through the problem without looking at the manuscript at all. So when I had this problem for They Stay, I went back, or the They Stay sequel, I went back and I created a whole new plot grid. I like color coding my plot grids. So what I do is I will take everything that I'd written in draft one and I'll put that in the plot grid in black text. And then everything that I need to add, I will put in green. And that plot grid will become my new map of my whole book. So I go based on that instead of my previous draft, and then I build an entire new draft from scratch. But this is the worst feeling. I'm really, really sorry. But definitely just try to find parts of your book that you do really like, that do really make sense, and hold on to those. because that's gonna help you probably refocus the book in a way that, like, highlights the stuff that is really the best about it. But good luck 'cause it's kinda tough. Yeah, editing is awful. I really, really dislike editing. Um, Fun fact, so it's actually 8:30 in the morning here in Montana and not 10 o'clock on the East Coast. I usually live on the East Coast, which is why I'm scheduling all these with East Coast time, but I am particularly tired this morning and had to make myself coffee super early because I stayed up really late reading Marissa's book, and it's really, really good, you guys. So if you're interested in reading, like, really unique plot twists that I absolutely didn't see coming or anything, you should go check her out because she's amazing. Oh, very cool. Yeah, messaging is important. Um, Riddles are interesting. I used to be really into writing limericks. I don't know if anybody else likes writing limericks. I used to, like, write limericks on, little Post-it notes in class and stuff, and I'd give them to my friends because I just thought that was funny. Okay, yeah, I can't say that I have read that or am familiar with that, but I hope that what I said was helpful. I should probably I need to read a little bit more outside of my genre. I've really been sticking to YA recently, but yeah, no, I always find it really interesting to read books that are completely outside the realm of what you write in because it can give you some really cool unexpected ideas. Like I recently picked up this book while like in Barnes and Noble in Montana because as you guys probably know, I'm really into ghost stories and I think that this is going to be really cool and potentially allow me to write some stories that blend my love for Montana with some ghost stuff. So, oh yeah, of course. I hope that that was helpful. I'm sorry I couldn't be more concrete, but if you are interested in like watching some of my like outlining plot grading videos, I have them all on my channel. And yeah, I wish you tons of luck because it's hard. Yeah, I'm not exaggerating. This book is amazing. I really please go pick it up. Okay, so how are you all feeling? Are you ready for another work sprint? Um, I think oh, I forgot to turn off the banner. Haha. As I said, we're gonna have technical difficulties. Um, if you are all ready to do some more writing, I'm going to share the same timer that I did last time. I promise next time we do this, I'm going to have a little bit of a better system, but I'm very grateful that you're bearing with me through this first time live stream. Okay, so awesome. I hope you all have a wonderful, productive sprint, and I will see you all in 20 minutes. I'm stopping the aggressive timer. How was that for everybody? That was a really productive sprint for me. I feel like I got a lot done. I finished this draft of this short story and was freaking out the entire time. Like last night, I felt so bad because I just thought, like, I don't write short stories, but I wanted to write a short story for They Stay, like in the They Stay universe. And I finished this draft and I thought it was terrible. I was just like really, really not feeling it, but now I'm reading it back and I actually am kind of happy with it. So this is like a bit of a pleasant surprise. Um, yeah, I think this is gonna be okay. I'm writing it from the point of view of a character who I don't actually write in They Stay, and he's a bit of a nervous talker because he's about to do something that really scares him. So I just have to make sure that it's not too wordy, and I have to cut it down enough to make sure that like it doesn't actually like have the inciting incident happen on like 1,000 words in. So working on it. I think it's going okay though. So I think we had some people pop in during that sprint. I'm so happy you're all here. You're doing well so far. Oh, thank you so much, Devin. That makes me very happy because this is my first time and going live is a bit of a scary thing that I was working up to for a while. So that makes me happy. You're doing awesomely as a host. Oh, thank you so much, Michael. Again, it makes me happy. I'm editing book 2 right now, also trying really hard not to stop writing and go finish They Say. Oh, thank you, Marissa. I'm so glad that you're enjoying it. That makes me really happy. Um, Please reply me. I don't see any comments that you left earlier. Um, can you help me in my education problem? I don't see, I'm so sorry. I don't see that you left any comments earlier in the stream. If you have any questions, please type them in the comments and I'll be super happy to talk about them. If you're talking about, I do get emails pretty frequently about colleges from the video that I made about choosing a college for creative writing. And I try really hard to stay on top of those, but it takes a long time because I usually have to spend like an hour in the morning replying to those emails when I get them. So it takes a lot of time and I can't do that every day, but I try my best to stay on top of those and be helpful. So if you did email me about colleges, please be patient with me. I promise I'm going to get back to you. It just sometimes I have really crazy weeks and yeah, it happens. But yeah, if that isn't what your question was, definitely put it in the comments. My name is pronounced like my, then Key, but it's a German name, so I know it's hard to pronounce. No, it's also me. I'm just really historically terrible with names. I had a super embarrassing thing happen one year. I was in a sorority in college, and it was my job to stand in front of the entire membership and read out all of the names of our new members that year. And I hadn't practiced before, and I didn't ask them because it was like a super kind of top secret thing that we were doing. And it was just one of the most humiliating 15 minutes of my entire life. The entire time I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. So I'm really bad with names. I'm so sorry, but okay, cool. Mikey, cool. Awesome. Um, uh, Oh yeah, she's in the, yeah. Thank you so much, Tim. Yep. I'm not going to be answering questions during the sprints, but I'll make sure that I talk about them afterwards. Hi, Duchess of Roxbury. You're plotting the second half of your book. That's so exciting. Plotting is my most favorite part of the entire writing process. So that's super exciting. I just need to start writing again. I have so many ideas for books. I completely feel you. I have been getting some serious like book ideas over the past couple of weeks, and it's been really hard for me not to sit down and try to write them. It's just like they're so tempting, especially like when you're in the middle of writing one thing and then your new idea is not that hard work yet. It's just fun and exciting and like the creative phase, especially when I'm editing. Editing is really hard. And I always find that I get really excited about new story ideas when I'm editing because I love the creative process of writing and not so much the actual editing process. But yeah, I'm a bit of a perfectionist. So when it comes to editing, I don't like having to just sit at my work and try to make it better and like use my critical thinking. I just like the creative part where like you can sit down and come up with things. And when you're drafting, nobody's going to see it. So it's so freeing. Yeah. Good golly, I just finished folding and putting my clothes away. LOL, it took forever. Oh my gosh, Autumn, it takes me so long to do that. I have such a bad habit of doing my laundry and leaving clean laundry in the hamper for like 2 to 3 days before putting it away. I really need to get better at that. And I admire you a lot being better about that than I am. I need to put my clothes away after the stream actually, so it happens. On your plot grids, do you number your scenes by chapter or do you number your scenes continuously? Hope that makes sense. Yeah, so what I do with my plot grids is that I just group them by chapter because then it makes it easier for me when I'm like going and writing in chapter because I'm trying with the sequel to They Stay to do one chapter a day. So I have like the columns on the plot grid and every single one corresponds to one chapter, but some of those chapters are a lot longer than others. So typically what I do is I'll just say like in one chapter, all this stuff needs to happen. And then in all of the little sorry, this is a row, this is not a column. I always get those confused when I talk about plot grids. And then in the columns, I have all the subplots and things that need to happen in that chapter. So sometimes I'll have like one scene within a chapter corresponding to one of the subplots, but I keep it all organized just in the row that I made for that chapter, if that makes sense. I really love making plot grids and organizing them and everything. But also, there is no reason why you can't make a plot grid where you number your scenes by chapter, or sorry, where you number your scenes continuously, and you just have like one row for every single scene. So it's really whatever works best for you and whatever you think is easiest for your brain to understand. I got another idea, so I was happy to keep writing. Awesome, that's awesome. Getting ideas is so fun. I love it when you just like get really excited about like one particular idea and you can just kind of hit the ground running with it. It's such a freeing, exciting feeling. Do you ever find that certain types of plot events appear in multiple projects? All my stories have supernatural disappearances. How do you keep yourself from being too similar in your other projects? Yeah, I totally do feel this. I love writing about ghosts, and right now, kind of a lot of my book ideas that I'm toying around with have some sort of element of supernatural something in it. I'm trying not to do like supernatural disappearance, like the example that you did, because I did that in They Stay. So I don't want to like create another book where like a kid goes missing and they have to find him because then that would be a little bit too similar to what I just did. Um, but I also think that there's nothing wrong with like if you love writing about supernatural things, write about supernatural things. I know that with a lot of authors, it's good for you to kind of stick to a particular type of story at the beginning of your career so that you can like build an audience of readers that likes reading that particular story. So if you're able to come up with a bunch of ideas in a particular genre that excite you, that's a really good thing. Because then the readers who liked your last book in that genre will probably also like your next book in that genre. There's also nothing wrong with repeating tropes. Like maybe not all of the same tropes all of the time, but you can like if you have a favorite trope, like for example, I really like reading about like friends to lovers. And so that's something that kind of finds its way into my stories pretty frequently. But the stories can be really different while still incorporating like friends to lovers as a romantic subplot. It kind of depends on the genre that you're writing. I also like I don't know. I think that you can have a lot of different ideas within a same category. So, like, if you like writing about supernatural things, you can like there are a lot of different things that you could do with supernatural things, and it's such a cool, creative, spooky category. And so, I would probably challenge yourself to maybe think of other tropes that maybe you haven't read about before, like used in your writing before, and see how you can combine that with your love of the supernatural and mix it up. Another thing that I also struggle with, which is not actually part of your question, but I'm just pretending that it is writing characters that sound different from each other. A lot of my main characters end up sounding a little bit similar, and that's something that I've really had to focus on changing. I spent a lot of time when I was writing They Stay making sure that Shiloh and Francesca sounded really, really different. And I just have to make sure like it's a conscious effort that I have to make that like future main characters of stories that I'm writing don't sound like Shiloh because that's kind of like my default main character voice. So that is another long-term kind of writing struggle that I've been working on. Yes, I'll read a ton of books about supernatural things, even if they're similar, especially if I like the author. Yeah, exactly. So like there are so many things that you can do with supernatural things. There are so many ways that you can go with it. I don't know. I think that broad categories like that, like if you think about like romance, like you have so many different types of romance books. And a lot of like romance books follow kind of similar beats, but they're so different. Also, if you read in different like romance genres, like if you read like a Western and like a historical romance and a contemporary romance, they're all completely different, but they all like, usually follow some sort of relationship. So you can also think about it like that. Like there are ways that you can make them unique. And also, the more original you can get within your trope, the better. I think like you can write supernatural things, and if they're like the more different they are from other things that people have read, the more exciting they will be for people to read. Um, Cool. I think that maybe we just do one more sprint and then call it. Um, I don't know how you are all feeling. Please let me know. I think I'm gonna stick with 20 minutes 'cause that's the timer that I have pulled up right now, but in the future, when I have more fancy timers, I can play around with the time a little more. Yeah, let's do one last sprint and then we can call it a day. This has been really fun and a really fun way to like start the weekend and start Saturday. I feel like I've already been so productive, and yeah, this has been really fun. I've really enjoyed like getting to chat with you all over the comments. Cool. So I'm gonna pull up the timer again, and let's do our final sprint. Happy writing, everybody. All right. Cool. How did everybody do on our last sprint? That was pretty good for me also. I was pretty happy. I'm like rereading the story. It's been long enough now that like I'm kind of looking at it with slightly fresh eyes because I was so focused on how the story was going to end. And I think that the beginning is like a little bit cute. So I'm pretty excited about that. Um, cool. So we got some awesome comments during the sprint. Thank you all so much for commenting and participating with me through this. Duchess of Roxbury said, I'm such a romance reader and writer. However, lately I've been reading sci-fi books. I never saw myself writing anything like this. Yeah, I mean, it's so cool when you get to like read genres that aren't typically your genre. I find it so thrilling and exciting. And because I feel like when you read a lot of the same genre, you get kind of used to some of the tropes and things that authors will do in that genre. But then when you change genres, like they can really surprise you. So yeah, no, that's awesome. I hope you're enjoying the sci-fi books that you're writing. That's super exciting. Sci-fi is also hard, I think, because you have to do all of that like technical research and stuff. I'd be really terrible at sci-fi. I was really bad at science all through high school. So better you than me. um, Michael said, editing takes so much energy. That's why I stress energy as opposed to time. Just because I have 2 hours doesn't necessarily mean I have 2 hours worth of editing energy. Yeah, I totally feel that. Writing really fills me with energy, and editing often will like make me feel a little bit more bogged down. It just, I don't know, because my brain has to work so hard. And I hate that point when you're writing where like you've just written this first draft and you're super excited about it, but it's not ready for people to read it. And then you have to sit down and you're like, okay, now I have to make sure that this whole story actually is put together enough for people to read. So definitely takes a lot of energy. I definitely feel that. Yes, I'll read a ton of books about magical fantasy things, even if they're similar, especially if I like the author. Yeah, exactly. So, definitely, if you want to write similar books, you should write similar books and write, like, in similar supernatural things. And you can use tropes that you like. Just write compelling stories that people want to read. And if they like the way that you write, then people will keep coming back. Hello. Actually, I don't use outlines. I feel that I will not be able to follow what happens if I write it down, but my mind is set on a story. Been doing that while writing about haunted dolls. Yeah, I mean, again, I say this a lot, but writing processes are so different. And every single person is such an individual writer. That's why it's really hard to find people who will teach you how to write. That's why there is no one instructor or course that can teach you how to write. You just need to be able to figure out what things work for you. That's why what I believe at least is that in order to be able to grow as a writer, you need to be able to be persistent, be willing to experiment and be willing to fail because people can tell you what works for them and you can take what works for them and try it and see if it works for you. And if it doesn't work for you, then you don't do it. And then if it does work for you, you can like add that into your process. It's a very individual thing. So I absolutely like I do use outlines because I found that when I don't use outlines, I always get stuck around the middle of the project. But I'm so glad that not using outlines works for you. And Haunted Dolls sounds super creepy. I couldn't even bring myself to watch Chucky. I like writing kind of spooky things, but nothing that crosses into the territory of scary because otherwise I will have nightmares that are all completely self induced. It's not a plot question, but what would you do if you're not taken seriously about writing, especially if you're a teenager? Yeah, this is hard. People still sometimes like they don't take me seriously about writing now, and like it's the most frustrating feeling when you're putting all of this effort and energy and time into doing this really hard thing, and people don't see it as hard. They're like, "Oh, cute, you write stories," but it's a really hard thing to write books, and especially as a teenager, like people will just say like, "Oh yeah, it's like such a cute hobby. Oh, you wrote a book." But it's a really huge accomplishment to write a book and if to write stories and to really like be putting yourself out there and to be trying your hand at this craft is really difficult. So first of all, congratulations for writing as a teenager. That is fantastic. That is so challenging. You should be so proud of yourself for doing it and going after what you love. There is nothing that you can really do about getting other people to take you seriously other than just try to ignore them and just know in your heart that you're doing the right thing for yourself and you're doing what you love and that you should just keep going because of your love for the craft and your love for storytelling. You can also find people online who are also writers. I found that other writers are way more like I'm blanking on the word. They're way more encouraging than people who don't really know what writing is and what it takes to write a book. So if you can like find other writers online or like another writer community, that can also be pretty encouraging. When I was a teenager, I joined a couple of like teen writing groups close to me. I did a program called Writopia Lab, and that really helped like connect me with other teen writers. But there are a bunch of like online forums too, where you can like meet up with people and talk about your stories. But definitely, like if this is what you want to do, you are not too young to do it as a teenager. Teenagers can write amazing books. Like keep going, keep your head up. I believe in you and your writing, and you're going to do really great. Yep, I kept writing. Awesome. We love writing. I'm so glad. Sprinting is so much fun. I stayed focused the whole time. I think my brain just like short bursts better. Same. This is the way that like I need to be able to do this if I'm going to be really productive. I've just like really found the 50 if I'm trying to write words, doing like 15-minute sprints and then like 5-minute breaks and 15-minute sprints helps me write so much faster than if I try to like write for an hour and stop, because then I don't get as distracted because I allow myself that like 5 minutes to get distracted. So I'm so glad it worked for you. It really works for me too. Gotta pop out for brunch. Thank you so much, and bye for now, Terrific Stream. Well, bye, Michael. Thank you so much for coming by. I'm so glad that you were able to make it. Well said. Thank you for reading my comment. Thank you for commenting. I think this is it for today. This has been such a fun stream. Thank you so much, all of you, for coming and for participating and for asking questions. I think I'm going to start doing this more because this is really fun. If this is a time that works for you, like let me know in the comments. I think that these Saturday mornings, it's a great way to start the weekend. It's a fun time to write, and this is around the time of day that I write anyway. So awesome. Well, thank you again, everyone. I will see you next stream. Bye, guys.